Thank you for joining the WWSD podcast. We are sponsored by Collector's Maze. You can find them at www.collectorsmaze.com for all things related to fandom, comics, creators, movies, television, cosplay, and much more. I'm Josh, and as always, I'm joined by my co-hosts Kyle and Seamus. And tonight we bring a special guest, Sarah de Gaudemar. She is an animator that has worked on such things as like Robot Chicken, Family Guy, Celebrity Deathmatch, the Lego Batman movie, Coraline, plus many more. She's pretty awesome, and we're really excited to have her here tonight. Thank you for joining us, Sarah. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for agreeing to come on. We really do appreciate it.
Is this where I give you my introduction now?
Well, I can introduce you a little bit more. But...
Okay. So, well, I didn't know if you were going to say, tell us about yourself.
I was going to lean into it a little bit, but thank you. So it's all good. So we have Sarah, and she's going to kind of introduce herself, and we're going to kind of ask her some questions about the industry. So she's worked on a bunch of really cool things. So we're really excited to ask her some questions. Sarah, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Sarah de Gaudemar. I'm a stop motion animator. Well, I guess I'm also a CG animator. I should say that. I grew up in Kansas City, and I went to college at NYU Film School. I focused on animation mostly, and when I first graduated, I worked at Jim Henson, but it was I was like a PA. It was, it's puppeteering, so it wasn't animation. And then I got a job doing 2D animations in in After Effects for doing station IDs and logo animation. We did some commercials and stuff. It was a small company in New York. At the time, I thought what I really wanted to do was stop motion, but there really wasn't a lot of stop motion. I mean, there had been The Nightmare Before Christmas, but there was, it wasn't like it was something that you could say, oh, I'm going to make a career out of that. There just didn't seem to be a lot of work. But then I got really lucky because they started the show Celebrity Deathmatch on MTV, and they needed people. They didn't have a lot of people to choose from, so I would say they were a little bit desperate. So they were willing to take on people who weren't very good, which would be, I was one of those people. So that was sort of my big break, because I learned everything on that job. It was an amazing opportunity. I worked for like a year and a half, and it was just churning out animation, and they were really, big punches and kicks and really dynamic stuff. And while I was working on that is when they invented this thing called the lunchbox, which was because before, when we first started shooting, we couldn't play what we were animating. We were just, we had, do you use Adobe Premiere? Mm-hmm. The very old version used to have this thing where it was, it could capture images, and you could kind of scroll through with your mouse, and you could see what you were capturing, but you couldn't play it in real time. And that was how we shot the very beginning of Celebrity Deathmatch. So the animation was very rough. And then we had this thing called the lunchbox, which you could hit play, and it would play all your frames that you were shooting in real time. So the animation immediately took off. Like, it was sort of the greatest learning tool. Everybody got a lot better. And then, so from there, I got a job at Will Vinton in Portland. And I was working on a show called Gary and Mike, which was originally supposed to be on Fox. They had an animation night. They had The Simpsons, and they had the PJs, and there was going to be just lots of animation. And halfway through shooting that, they actually decided not to do it. They pulled the plug. So we all lost our jobs, and I started working on the PJs, which was also at Will Vinton. And then they sold Gary and Mike to the WB, I think. And so we started up again. We finished that season. So that did finally air. Let's see, after that, what did I do from then? I worked back at MTV briefly, and then I worked on a couple jobs, and then I ended up in California with Art Clokey, who was the inventor of Gumby and Davy and Goliath, and it was a Davy and Goliath snowboarding special. They were bringing it back, so I worked on that, which was pretty cool because he's a legend. Mm-hmm. Let's see, after that. I'm trying to keep it all in order. It's been a lot of years. After, I should have written this down. After I worked for Cookie, I guess I went to LA pretty soon after that. I started working on Robot Chicken, and I worked on Moral Oral, and it was, I think, sometime around there that I got the job on Coraline, and that was a big deal because up until then I'd been working on TV shows, and so working on a feature was very different because TV shows are you don't really get a chance to refine what you're doing. You're working very, very quickly, and you're just churning stuff out. And working on Coraline was something with these really nice puppets, and we had a lot more time to really make the shots look really nice. And so that was a big deal. Then I stopped for a while because I had kids. So it was a bit of a break on the career. I was doing some commercials and stuff. I worked on a couple of the Robot Chicken Star Wars specials. And then I shifted I shifted gears a bit, and I decided to try doing computer animation. And I ended up going to Sydney, where they were shooting the Lego Batman movie, because it was kind of like stop motion, but it was in CG. So that was really a good segue for me, because they wanted it to look like stop motion.
Okay.
So that was something I knew how to do. But then I was able to learn the computer skills. And so then I worked on that for a while. And I ended up working just most recently in London on a feature film called Ron's Gone Wrong, which was supposed to be released already, but has been pushed and pushed because obviously it's a pandemic and you can't go to the theater. Yeah. So it's supposed to come out, and it's supposed to come out in October. It's gonna be distributed by Disney. And so cool. That's also in computer, but now that was even more difficult for me because that had all the facial animation and all the stuff that you didn't have in Lego Batman. So that was a real change, very challenging. And then now I'm back in LA, and I'm animation director on a series. It's in stop motion again. So I'm back to my roots. And it's a show called Santa Inc. It's for HBO Max. It's got Seth Rogen.
Oh, nice.
By Ali Rushfield.
Nice. That's awesome.
So now we're up to date. Sorry, I should have written that down.
No, that's okay. No, it was great.
No, it was awesome. So the thing you're working on now, are you actively working on it, or is it wrapping up? Like, when is it coming out?
I'm in pre-production on it.
Okay.
Currently working remotely, which is weird. But when we start shooting, I'll have to be there in person.
Okay.
So what made you, like, what attracted you to stop motion animation in the first place?
It's one of those things that I always really liked it, but I didn't think about it being something that you could do when I was little. And some people, maybe when they were little, they thought, I'll do that as a job, but it didn't even occur to me that it was something that people did. I don't know. It's like when you're a kid, you think of things as being like magic, or
right.
So I didn't like sink in until I watched, I went in high school. Do you remember the Spike and Mike festival? You guys never went to a Spike and Mike?
No, I don't remember.
Okay, well now I feel really old. It was a festival that used to take short animated films, and it was sort of a great way for animation artists to get their stuff seen, because they were all packaged into like an hour and a half. You went to the theater and you watched them all. And one of the shorts that was in there was Creature Comforts. You've seen that, right?
I think so. Yeah. It sounds
familiar. The Aardman one, where they took real audio of humans that they interviewed on the street, and then they took animated animals that were saying, they were doing the dialogue of the people, it was really great. It's one of my favorites, and it was just really inspiring. So I guess when I saw that, I fell in love with it, and I wanted to do it.
Gotcha.
How old were you when you saw that, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, that was high school. So, I mean, I don't remember exactly what age, but somewhere, I mean, it was in high school. That's all I can remember. I don't remember exactly the year, but.
Yeah. So in high school, you kind of fell in love with animation, and that's what you kind of wanted to go that route?
Well, yes, I kind of fell in love with it, but I still didn't really think about, this is something that I could go to school and study. So I got this idea that I wanted to go to film school, and because I was actually, do you remember the movie The Freshman with Matthew Broderick? Did you ever see that one? Okay, that one you've seen. I saw that, and he was in NYU Film School, and he was in class, and I was like, oh, that's really awesome. I want to do that. So I applied, and I got in, and I went. And when I was there, that was when I discovered the animation department, and it was one of those things that I kind of thought what was neat about it was when you're making an animated film, you could kind of do everything yourself. I wasn't very good about coordinating this huge production with a bunch of people doing a live action shoot. It was something that I could just sort of have my little set and do everything. And that just appealed to me. But I will say that I was not very good at animation. Like the stuff that I did in college, I mean, I made a film and, we showed it in a festival. It actually opened at a festival in the Hamptons that Steve Buscemi also had a film in.
Oh, that's cool.
But it really wasn't that good of a film. So I don't know how that happened. Somehow it happened. But honestly,
is it still on the internet?
No, I never put it on the internet. This is before the internet was like a thing. Thank goodness. Yeah, it wasn't very good. So, I mean, I will admit that now. But the thing is, what's great about being young and naive is you don't know you're bad. So you keep doing something and you get better at it. And that's great because now I'm old enough that if I start something new, if it doesn't look good, I just quit and I give up. But I didn't quit. And so working on Deathmatch was my my grad school. That was everything. I learned a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that show, by the way.
Yeah, that was an amazing show.
It's shaped like all of our childhoods.
I mean, the animations in general were just so fun. Just seeing their heads bashed in. I remember Prince getting rings, like nipple rings and stuff, just getting pulled out.
My first day of work. Oh, sorry, I was going to tell you.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
My first day of work.
Sorry, go
question.
Go ahead, Sarah.
It's a terrible delay. Zoom is the worst. This is how my days go every day of my work meetings. It's a bunch of interrupting because I'm always delayed for some reason. I don't know why. I have regular internet. What I was going to say is my first day of work, I was a little nervous. I wasn't sure if I was going to fit in with all of this, wrestling stuff. My first shot was it was Oprah Winfrey and Rosie O'Donnell, I think. And I think Oprah's on the ground and Rosie stomps on her. And I made her eyeballs pop out. And then I had her reach and put them back in. And the director came in and he watched it and he said, I'm not sure if we're allowed to do that. I'm going to have to run it by, standards and practices. And it was funny because my very first shot almost was too graphic to make it on the air, but they put it in. It was fine. It wasn't in the end. I mean, they did way worse stuff, so it was no big deal. But it was just funny that was my first shot.
Gave him the idea.
How long does it actually take to make a shot?
Well, I guess it depends on the length of the shot and the complexity of the shot and whether you're doing something in television or in feature, because you're either shooting it on ones or on twos. So that's hard to say. I mean, on Robot Chicken, we shot about 7 to 10 seconds a day, but on Coraline, we shot maybe 2 seconds a day or something like that.
Oh wow!
So it's quite a difference in the amount that you shoot.
How many people are involved in that? Because in normal drawing animation, they have filler artists and so forth. So how does that work with the stop animation?
Well, with stop motion, you usually have, say, 20 animators on 30 stages or something like that, maybe 40 stages, because you always have a stage that's being set up and lit. And then the animator moves onto that stage and does some shots. But when you're in there animating, I mean, it's one of the things I really like about it. It's because it's really it's like live action, but on a small scale. And you're in control of all of it. You're doing everything. So there's not somebody in there who's changing anything that you do, which is very unlike working in computer animation, because I do a shot there and then you have a room full of people who are change that, don't do that. I don't think that's a good idea. And you're constantly changing it. You go back, you redo it, you do it again. It's a very different process.
You
That's
have
crazy,
patience of steel.
Yeah. Like you would work an entire day just for 10 seconds on Robot Chicken. It's so crazy to think about.
And is that 10 seconds per animator? Or is that the entire production schedule?
No, that's per animator. That's per animator. And that's a good day, 10 seconds. That's if you just have like dialogue, you know, if you have a lot of characters in action, it's going to be smaller. So that's why you average out. You could have a slow day that's like 5 seconds, you know.
Gotcha.
Now, when you were like doing Robot Chicken, would like a group of you do like one of the segments at a time, or were you guys all working on one episode? Like how do they break up like the workload for that kind of thing?
Well, if you're lucky, you can get like a whole little back and forth, because then you get sort of like a little section that's yours. Mm-hmm. You're not always able to get that, so that's sort of always every animator's wish is to get that. Sometimes they break it up by the camera's facing this way, all these shots facing this way you do, and all the shots facing this way on another set another animator will do, because that's a faster way to shoot it. So then you'll end up having every other shot in a sequence. So I mean, it really just depends on how many sets they have of it, how fast they need to shoot it, whether or not you're going to get the whole sequence or just some shots in it.
Okay.
So now, go ahead, Jameis.
I was gonna say, so are you the one? Are you like kind of filling somebody else's vision? Like is somebody else like drawing these things and telling you, like kind of giving you the like direction? Are they giving you direction, or because you said it's kind of a thing you get to do yourself, but like is it how much of like is a director or writer like kind of coaching what's going on while you're doing that?
Well, so it depends on you have a director, so somebody is telling you what to do, but the level of how much of influence they have over it really kind of depends on how much time you have. On a feature film, you go in for a meeting with the director, you talk about what they want in the shot, just like a director would talk to an actor saying, these are the emotions they're feeling, this is what she has to do, this is, all of these things. Then you go away and you do a block, which is, you animate it just like every 8 frames you do a pose. And so that is, then you take that back to the director, and it's sort of like your pitch, like this is how I think I'm going to do this shot. And so the director says, I like that, that's great, do that. Or the director says, no, I don't like this, or can you change that? So either you go back and you do a rehearsal again, or you shoot it for real. But that's a chance for there to be a back and forth. On a TV series that's more low budget, the director's going to come in and tell you all that stuff that they want, and then you're not going to have time to do a rehearsal. So you're just going to go and you're going to do it. And then for the most part, they're probably going to say, okay, and take it. If it's really horrible, they'll make you reshoot it. But usually time-wise, you can't really reshoot a lot. So there's, kind of is what it is. So.
Gotcha.
Are you working hand in hand also with like someone separate that makes the models that you're working with? Like how does that work?
Yeah, there are puppet people who make the puppets. There are set fabricators who make all of the sets and the props. And yeah, I don't make anything. I just break it.
That's cool.
So I know Robot Chicken was like more action figure type toys, and Coraline was like more like, were they full size puppets, like or are they larger? Were they still smaller? And then like stuff like Celebrity Deathmatch, PJ's was claymation. So like it's kind of all over the place, right? Or does it really not matter for?
Well, actually, the only clay that they had on any of that stuff, most of it was all foam latex bodies. The Celebrity Deathmatch had clay heads. So we were able to sculpt that, but the rest of the body was not clay. So it was just, It's just the head that was clay, which was actually very heavy. So if we had to fly them, we had like a soft plastic one that was kind of carved out of foam that we would use to fly them, because then it wouldn't be so heavy on the rig. But otherwise, everything else I've done, there's not any clay at all. And the Coraline puppets are like that big, I guess.
Okay, so a little bit bigger than like the stuff from Robot Chicken. Because the stuff from Robot Chicken,
not by much. They're really, no, I mean, yeah, I guess slightly, but not by too much. I mean, it's not like a huge. Most productions are operating in a similar scale, so it's not wildly different.
Okay. So, what would you say is like the most important skill to have as an animator in stop motion? Like, what's like one thing that if you focused on that, like you're gonna do pretty well as far as like the in the craft of it.
To pick one thing, I guess timing. Timing is everything. You know, if the general motion is good, then I mean that's huge. So if you can convey the acting,
yeah. Gotcha.
So when you're actually setting up like the scenes and doing the scenes, do you have people like using the dialogue? Like, are they acting out the scenes for you? Because I'm assuming you're just moving the figures, like take the picture, move a figure, take a picture. But do you have like people like actually doing like the voice work so you can kind of get a feel for it?
Well, voices are always recorded beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
I say that, but I did work on a project where we didn't have time to get the final voices. So we had scratch voices, which is just like, you know, a temporary actor. And then they actually recorded the dialogue to our animation, but that's not a normal thing to do. Normally, you always have the dialogue recorded. Okay. And as far as video reference, definitely on a feature film, you pretty much always shoot video reference of what you're going to do, because that's very helpful for the timing and everything. You can either shoot yourself or you can shoot somebody else who's a better actor maybe. But I strongly believe in video reference for sure. It's not necessarily the director that's going to act it out for you. Could just be yourself.
Okay,
cool. It's interesting.
And do you use like a lot of storyboards? So I know like traditional animation uses like storyboards. Would the stop motion animation also use something similar, or?
Yeah, so the process is you have your script, then you have the people record the dialogue, then you take that to a storyboard artist who draws all the storyboards. Then the editor puts those together with the dialogue and the sound. So it's almost like a 2D animated film of all the storyboards. And so you get that, you get the animatics. So you have storyboards, you have the timing. That's how you know what to do.
Gotcha. Okay.
Cool. Have they actually made anything like technology wise that's like helped you made life easier for the stop motion?
Since
you started,
totally,
right?
yes. There's the Dragon Frame software that's everybody uses, industry standard. It's amazing. I mean, you can put in your live action video underneath what you're shooting. You can go back and forth. You can control motion control with the camera. You can it can handle like green screen situations and clean passes. And I mean, it's amazing. Everybody uses it. So definitely the technology has come very far from that.
Yeah, that's cool. Good.
So what would be like your dream franchise to work on? I know you've done so much already, but is there like anything you would want to do as like an animator?
That's a good question. I mean, I've worked at Leica, which was cool. I don't know if, let's see, it would be cool to work at Aardman, which I haven't done. I was just over in London, but then when I was available, they were actually all shut down because of the pandemic. So I don't know, I guess I want to make my own thing.
Okay.
Cool.
What are you working towards that? Are you looking to like direct or animate? Like, what would you do for like your own thing?
Yeah, no, I'd like to direct. I'd like to come up with something on my own. That's why I'm moving into being an animation director and trying to move out of the. I mean, I love animating, but it's a real grind for stop motion, especially. I'm getting older, and I enjoy mentoring students and helping, junior animators, and I find that fun. So I think it's good to sort of segue into that kind of a position.
Is there a specific genre that you feel yourself attracted to?
Of a type of movie, you're saying?
Yeah, because you've done some of the quirky stuff with like Robot Chicken, Coraline, more kid oriented and kind of creepy.
I would say I like comedies for adults, and I mean, not necessarily like so adult that it has to be like Sausage Party, but I do in general. That's more something that I enjoy, which is why I thought this Santa Inc. was a good show, because it's a comedy and it's for adults, not kids.
Yeah.
You said it's Seth Rogen in it, so that's like a dream.
Right? Yeah. So you can imagine.
Yeah. Okay. What are some of the like, have you actually worked with like real actors? I know you said they record their audio beforehand, so you don't really get to work with those type of people, or how does that work?
Mean, I get to meet them sometimes when they come by, which is fun. But normally the when they're recording the voices, that happens before you get there, so you don't really get to see them so much. Yeah, you kind of do.
Yeah.
So Seth Green doesn't just like show up and he's like, "This is a horrible 5 seconds of animation," and just tears all the clay apart.
No, he's a really nice guy, actually. What was great about Seth is that he actually, most of the time you get a director who has never been an actor themselves, but Seth was different in that he's an actor. So when he was directing Robot Chicken episodes, it was great because he actually did a bunch of video reference. He would act out everything, and so you had great reference. So you don't usually get that. So that was really good.
Love to see those.
Yeah, I don't know I never copied. I don't have them, unfortunately. Right. So I could never secretly release them, even if I wanted to.
Seems like some really good extra features for like a DVD box set release.
Yeah, they should have put that on there. That would have been good. Yeah.
All right. Do you have any funny stories about any of the people you've worked with that might be funny for us at least? Anything goofy or anything wonky with some toys?
Oh man, I should have thought about this ahead of time. I'm always bad about remembering these things. Let's see, did anything crazy happen?
Because I know, like Kyle said, the Coraline stuff was pretty creepy. So I can just imagine you setting up a doll in like a creepy pose, just messing with someone.
It just starts animating itself, and it's like,
yeah, no, that would be a great story if that happened. In fact, it would make my job very easy if they would just animate themselves. That'd be great. I'm trying to think of something really crazy that happened.
If you don't have anything, don't worry about it.
I've broken puppets and things, but you know.
So you actually did say
I've
something.
been working in computer a lot lately, so that's what's freshest in my mind. And for the last year, because of the pandemic, we've been working from home. So, you know, very few good stories when you're isolated at home. It's just,
So like you did mention that you would like to see them like animate themselves. I mean, the computer animation, it has to be a lot easier than actually working with physical like models and dolls and puppets. I mean, do you like that?
You would think that, like it's funny how much stop motion and computer animation people don't understand each other very well. I mean, I think people who work in computer always have a lot of respect for stop motion. Like it's very hard what you do. I could never do it because it's all this straight ahead animation. But the truth is, and maybe that's just because I come from stop motion as my base, I found stop motion easier than working in the computer. I always had this idea that, well, it can't be that hard because once you program it in, you can just, copy your walk cycle and it's all this stuff's in there and it's got to be easy. But it's really not. It's really, actually, I have a lot of respect because it's very difficult. You go in and there's so many controls in the face. There's all these little things that you have to move around. So you really have to know your stuff. There's squashing and stretching, which is stuff that you can't do in stop motion. So yeah, I mean, they're very different ways to think, very different ways to work. And I think they're both very hard in their own ways. So I have respect for artists on either side.
Do you see a big difference in like the culture in those two groups of artists?
Definitely, very much so. I feel like in the computer animation, I think so stop motion kind of draws a very weird kind of person, and I'm one of them. So I don't mean this to be, I'm not talking down to them. I'm at that level. But you kind of have to be a little bit crazy to do it, because it's not a high paying job. It's not an easy job. It's you just have to be. And a lot of people who work in it, I think you have a lot of people who have ADD, because it's the kind of thing where you need to hyper focus. The misconception about ADD is that you can't focus at all, but you have to be able to like hyper focus on something and just, do it over and over all day long, and be socially isolated. You have no windows. You are in a dark, curtained off space all day, every day. So, people are a little bit nuts in the same way. I feel like they're my people. I really enjoy working with stop motion people. They're very fun. People who work in computer animation, they're also fun because they're animators, but they're just different because I feel like they're maybe more social because they work, in these large rooms with other people. And also because they sit at a computer all day, I think that there's more people work out more and they care about trying to keep their health up after. I felt like the people were surprisingly very healthy. You'd think sitting at a computer all day is something that would be, but I feel like a lot of people really kind of cared about that. I feel like in stop motion, you're just too tired and exhausted at the end of the day. So you're not going to the gym after work or anything.
Okay. Do you have any other hobbies or anything that you like to do outside of your work?
Well, I did like to travel a lot, but that's not something that can really happen right now. I'm really into photography.
Oh, cool.
Huh?
Did you do like cons when before the pandemic? Would you go around to like different conventions and stuff like that, or not really?
I've been to Comic-Con a few times.
Okay.
That's my only. Oh, actually, I also went to because we had done the Star Wars special. We were invited to the Star Wars convention. They had like a Star Wars convention in LA.
Okay.
And it was I think it was on like May 4th or something.
Mm-hmm.
I had a VIP badge actually, and it was pretty exciting because I remember I was sitting at one of the events they had, and I was sitting next to what's the name? The lead singer of the Go-Go's. Her name's like Jane Weedlin. I'm gonna ruin her name. She's probably hopefully not watching. Anyway, she was there sitting next to me, which was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm sorry. You said you also do
so
photography.
Those are the only conventions I've been to.
Yeah. But you say you do photography.
Yeah,
it's a hobby. It's killing.
Hobby. I really like it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you said you have you had a couple of mentors when you were coming up.
I didn't actually really have. I didn't. I like to be a mentor at this point, but I never really had somebody who was particularly a mentor officially. But I mean, I would say I was really lucky to work with some really amazing people that I learned a lot from, like Anthony Scott and Eric Layton. I mean, these are people that are just like, they'll blow you away how good they are.
Cool. So you got a lot out of working with those guys.
Yeah, that was kind of the best thing about Coraline, was that I was just surrounded by people who had worked on amazing things, and I was really in awe. I really admired what they had done. So that was, intimidating.
Yeah. Gotcha. Cool.
Have you ever had any problems I know like animation was predominantly dominated by men. Like, have you ever had any problems of being like a woman and like trying to get into that field, where people like ever like being sexist towards you, or just giving you like really bad like vibes and whatnot?
You don't want to get me started on that, because I can go on for a very long time about it. I mean, the thing is I started working in the late 90s, and I mean, the entertainment industry is bad, and then animation is, I think, even worse, and then stop motion is particularly bad, or was. I think things are changing, but it's a slow evolution. So I have plenty of stories, but I guess that's one of the things where I don't want to publicly share them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever like?
But I will say that it was very difficult to be. I mean, one of the problems also is just that if you're like, I was on a crew, I was in an animation team once, and I was the only female on the team. And it's the kind of environment where nobody has to do anything where they're specifically being sexist, but you are automatically different than everybody else. So they'll go out and be like, we're going to do like this male bonding thing, and you're just not invited just because it's weird. And so it's not like somebody was thinking about it or doing it on purpose. It's just that when I'm on a team where it's 50-50 men and women, it's so much more comfortable. And I don't know how to explain it. It's not like I have specific women things I have to talk about all the time, but there is this balance to it that you don't feel excluded, and it just makes a huge difference. And I like when there is, when people are creating their teams, when they think about that and they make sure to make it more balanced, it makes a huge difference. So I'm very conscientious right now. We're putting together a team on our show, and it's very important to me that that we have a lot of women on the team.
No, that's cool. That's awesome.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah, because like with one of our other interviews that we had, he said like the women in the animation industry. This was early '90s. They were treated a lot worse than men. They got a lot worse wages and stuff like that. So I was wondering if you had similar situations since you're a little bit later.
Well, yeah. I mean, one of my first days at MTV, I was sitting next to a guy. We had the same exact experience level. We were the same age. We were freshly out of college. You know, we both had a job before this one. And we started talking about our wages. And he was literally being paid 3 times as much as I was.
Oh my God.
That's outrageous. That's so ridiculous. Oh,
no, I was livid. I was so upset. But I mean, part of that also was me being an idiot when I first, I got out of college, and it was just exciting to, just get money. Just felt exciting. So, I pretty much said yes to almost anything someone offered me. But without thinking, I'd been working, doing like assistant, like this really low paying job. And when I was talking to the producer at Deathmatch, they said, how much are you making now? And like an idiot, I said what I was making. And then she said, that's great. That's what we're going to pay you. And that was it. Like the conversation was done. And then I was like, what did I just do? So, I mean, part of that is my fault, but it's how you learn.
Yeah. God, that's crazy.
Do you have an agent now, or do you?
I don't have
normally get agents. Okay, gotcha.
You get an agent if you start like directing, and you would probably get an agent for jobs like that, or if you're doing independent work, like you're doing commercials or something, and you need that. But just for doing animating on a series or a movie, you don't generally need an agent. Although I like the idea of somebody negotiating for me.
Fair enough. So what would you prefer, like TV or movies or even other stuff? I mean, have you done like video game animation and stuff like that, or not really?
I've never done video game animation.
Okay.
I don't play a lot of video games. So I don't think I would be a good candidate for it, because I feel like you should be passionate about what you're working in. This is just because I think video games would be fun, but if I started that, I would get addicted and I wouldn't stop. So I pretty much just don't play it for that reason. Not to put it down, like it's not a bad thing. I have kids.
Yeah. We know what that's
but like. If I had to say my preference, I do prefer working in features, because you get to perfect your art more. So, I mean, it's more fun to be given the time and the tools you need to make something look really nice, rather than, having to sort of churn it out. But the fun part of working in series work is that there's also less pressure. So, you kind of have more control because you're doing it really fast. So nobody's going to like change what you're doing. And so, I mean, they each have their pros and cons.
Cool.
Now, is there still like a lot of like stop motion work and all? Because we were talking previously in our pre-show, we haven't really seen like any like stop animation work in a long time. It's like, is it like a dying art, you would say, or is it just people aren't doing it anymore?
Actually, there is so much work right now that we're having a lot of trouble finding animators for our project. There's so much work. There are 3 features being shot in Portland right now that are going to be on, 2 of them are going to be on Netflix. There is a feature gearing up at Aardman. There is a feature gearing up in France. I mean, there's lots of that. And then the studio I'm working at, they have like 3 or 4 series in production right now simultaneously that are happening. So it's there's actually a lot of work. So maybe you're not seeing it now, but in a year when all these things come out, you're going to be oversaturated with it.
All right.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
It always comes in waves. It's always been like that, where there were years where it's like it was really hard to find work, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, you know, asking you
Too much
for
work. Yeah.
work. Yeah, it's always like that. You always have like 3 things to choose from or nothing. It's never like do them back to back. Never happens.
Where should an aspiring stop motion animator, like, where do you start? Like, what would be your advice to get their feet wet?
Well, first of all, if you're starting in stop motion now, you are so much luckier than when I started in stop motion, because the technology is there that you easily buy. I mean, they have apps on your phone that are pretty amazing. They're free. There's a free stop motion app. You get you can download a version. You download it on 2 phones. One of your phones is your camera, and your other one you can do the shooting and all that. You can operate it remotely, which is amazing because you can just practice animation anywhere you are, anytime, without any fancy equipment. So that right there is already huge. And I would say just start doing something every day, and you start doing simple things where you just, you take an object and you just slide it along, and then you practice maybe a down shooter. You do like a bouncing ball with something on the table. You take like a coin or something, and you just keep building up. And if you keep doing something every day, you'll get better, and you'll start to learn. You'll figure out what's good and what's not. And so that's really all it is. It's just practice.
Cool. Do your kids, do they do like stop motion like that for fun, or do you like try and like do that as fun with them? That seems like it would be something cool I would do with my son.
They thought it was
yeah.
Well, they thought it was cool at first, and I thought that was really exciting that we would be able to do stop motion together. And then when they realized how much work it was and how much patience you needed, they kind of got bored with it and were like, I'm done with this. So I'm hoping that when they get a little older, that they'll be able to get back into it and do it. I don't want to push it too much, because then I feel like then they'll hate it. So I want them to come to it when they want.
do they get like super stoked when they're like, oh, mommy like worked on Coraline, and like they see like the movie or something? Like,
yeah, they do actually, which is cool. Awesome. That they as they get older, they have more of an awareness. So now when we watch a movie, they like to see my name in the credits, and that's nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool.
Yeah. What's like the most fulfilling part of doing like these types of animation for you?
It's such a rush that you get when I mean, I don't know how to explain it. It's just you take something, and at the beginning of the day, it's just a puppet there. And at the end of the day, it's emoting in a way that people watch it and they laugh, or it's just doing things that are very complex. And I don't know, I just feel such satisfaction that there's this kind of like, it's tedious when you're doing it and it can feel kind of boring, but then you get this sort of like dopamine rush, I guess, when you accomplish it and people watch it, and that makes you do it again and again. I guess that's how people get through the tediousness of it. It just feels really good. I just really enjoy it. I think it's really fun.
I think it's cool. Kind of interesting that you go from like the trying like so hard to bring something to life, like that's so tedious, and then now you like photography, which is one moment captured. So I think that's like interesting how you've kind of shifted there in interest.
Yeah, I mean, I was always really into photography. When I was in high school, I built a darkroom in my closet, and I was a yearbook photographer, and I really enjoyed capturing. I was always a very quiet, shy person, so I would just kind of sit in the background and I would just capture things. That was kind of my way to socialize, is to show a picture of something instead of like actually talking to people. So I guess that was naturally how I went into film, is that it just became like the pictures were moving. But yeah, I mean, I like both, so I'm not sure I eventually went into animation, but I could have gone into photography. When I was younger, if you'd asked me when I was in high school, I said I wanted to be a photographer for Life magazine.
Cool.
So you worked on some pretty wonky stuff like Deathmatch and Robot Chicken. You ever like show this stuff to your family and they're just like, "What the hell are you doing?" it's kind of weird. Like because I was trying to explain it to like my friend like what Robot Chicken was the other day, and they're just like, "I don't get it." So I can't imagine like showing that to like my parents or something. This is like my life's work.
Yeah, I mean, my mom, you know, I'm sure she didn't really love that. I mean, I can imagine as now that I'm older now and I see the stuff my kids are into, I can kind of imagine what that was like for her. She was always very polite about it, but yeah, she probably was not like a huge fan of it. But, you know, I did for Christmas one year, the gift I gave to her was I took some of we had, after celebrities had been shot on Deathmatch, sometimes the heads would get kind of resculpted and used as in the audience. Mm-hmm. And I took 2 of the heads and I remade them into my mom and my stepdad, and I put them in the audience of an episode. And then I did a photo shoot with them. And so there's a picture of Michael Jackson hugging my mom and my stepdad with Madonna. And I made that and I framed that and I gave that to them. So
that's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so cool. I feel like, yeah, if I was an animator like that, I would just do stupid shit like that and just like mess with my friends, just put them in like weird poses with other people. And
yeah, I mean, the great thing about it's harder on other shows to get like people into that. I was actually when I worked on this movie called Disaster, which is very, when we talk about like adult comedy, like really like you know, adult comedy, but they put all of us in the show. Actually, every person who was in the crew got sculpted and made into a character on the show. So I did actually get to once be a character, but the only other time that was really possible was Deathmatch, because we had all those audience people, so you could just sculpt people whenever you had downtime. You could just be sculpting people and stick them in the audience.
That's really cool.
Yeah. All right. What's some of the crazier things you've seen people animate that just like blew your mind? Like, where it's like, how did you do this? Like, was there anything like that where you just saw something and you just couldn't comprehend how they did it?
Yeah, I mean, I've witnessed some amazing animators for sure. I mean, one of the things that I always think about is on Coraline, that sequence that Eric Layton animated, the ladies singing in the theater. Do you remember that sequence? When they're up on stage, the 2 ladies, so like, you know, she's kind of half naked. Do you remember that?
Is that a kids movie?
Yeah, I told you. Coraline.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's borderline. It's for 8 and up, I would say. But that sequence, the way it was set up, that in front of the stage there was this like wave machine. There was all this stuff, so you couldn't. He had to climb under that and animate, and then climb back under to see what he was doing on a monitor that was far away. So he could not be touching the 2, which if I'm working, I have to touch the 2. I have to. But he was climbing back and forth. So not only did he have that handicap that I would be lost without, but he animated faster than I did. He was so fast. So it blew my mind because it's flawlessly animated. He did it without being at the computer constantly, and he did it really fast. So yeah, it was one of those things, you see that and you're like, I should just, you know, quit my job.
That's crazy. Now, was there ever like a time you animated something and you thought, oh, this is perfect, this is the best I've ever done, and then like Seth Green just like totally shits on it, like, no, this is trash, this is terrible, like, what are you doing? Like, you ever got in those situations?
You really want me to tell you really want me to divulge that Seth Green is secretly an asshole?
Yeah. No, I don't think it's
he's really not, though. He's really not.
He's a sweet guy. Yeah, he's a very sweet guy. Not him in particular, but just like something you've worked on, put your soul into, and just got stomped out of you.
Well, I mean, I will say that as you go through the industry, you have to learn to let go of your personal attachment to a shot, and you have to not take things personally, which in the beginning, I definitely took a lot of things very personally. And that was really tough for me, because I mean, nobody ever was like, this is shit. But I mean, I definitely have had shots that, you know, they didn't go over as well as I would have hoped. But it's one of those things that I'm much better about now. I can go in with a shot and the director can say, I don't like this, I don't like this, change this. And I'm like, okay. And I go and I change it. So, I mean, it's not to say that I don't feel some disappointment inside, but it doesn't crush me in the way that it did when I was younger. I've definitely gotten much tougher.
All right.
Yeah, I feel like that industry you have to be pretty tough with, just because like you spend all day doing 10 seconds of work, and you can't really like put your whole heart and soul into it because it's just 10 seconds at the end of the day, which is, it's crappy about it.
Well, that's one of the things that you have to, that's one of the differences between stop motion and CG, is that in stop motion, like I said, most of the time you embrace the flaws because you have things you're like, I wish I didn't do that or that. And they haunt you sometimes because all you can see when you watch it are those stupid little things you did. But at the end of the day, it's still all yours and it's in the movie and it's you know, it's fine. But in computer animation, like the people are, they'll change everything, you know, so it's you can't be attached to anything. It's going to be completely, they're going to pick it apart.
Yeah. Okay. All right, well, we're getting close to that hour mark. Do you guys have any more questions for Sarah?
I hear screaming in the background too. So.
Yeah, that's my kid.
I just, you know, thanks for coming on. I really enjoyed listening to what you had to say about everything.
Thanks for having me. I'm sorry, I should have been more prepared with my.
You were great.
You're more prepared than we are. So
I'm always terrible though. People always say something like, "Oh, tell us a funny thing that happened or a story," and that's when I just immediately go. I do. I'm like a deer in the headlights. I'm like, nothing funny's ever happened. I'm sure a million things have, but
we can do a tell-all on Seth Green a little later if you want.
You really want that, don't you?
We want the dirt.
I was just hoping for something because I know he's a sweetheart. I know he's a really sweet guy. I've seen his interviews, like, but I was just hoping for something. Like he's just an asshole. Just
I want him to come in with a Napoleon complex.
I've met some celebrities who've turned out to be very disappointing and assholes in person, but Seth Green is not one of those people.
Yeah, no, he's always really cool when I see him in interviews and all.
Yeah, he's exactly that way. He's exactly the same way off camera. So he's the same.
I feel like when he's there, you're just laughing the entire time. Like you just can't help yourself from laughing because everything he's doing is funny, or he's making jokes, or just being lovable and charming. Like I just feel like he's always like acting on camera, kind of thing. Yeah, he's
a fun guy.
Yeah. Now Jim Henson, on the other hand, like he was an asshole.
Actually, when I mean, speaking of funny stories, I guess I had Seth Green over for dinner once, and we had raclette. Have you ever had raclette? It's like a French thing where you melt the cheese yourself and then you put it on potatoes and everything.
Okay.
Well, anyway, we did like, that.
Yeah.
But it requires a special grill, and you have to be careful with it, as we discovered, because we left the dining room, we went into the living room, and then Seth went to go to the bathroom, but then he came back in a second later and he said, your table's on fire. And it had the thing that was really hot, the heating element, I guess somebody had put a napkin down too close to it and it had caught fire, and my table was on fire, so we had to put it out. But you know, it's possible that Seth set the fire, you know. I mean, if you want a bad story, I mean, maybe he tried to burn my house down. Yeah, I don't know. He might. Maybe he did.
Where like he snuck away. He's like, this cheese is ridiculous. That's really cool.
He might be a secret pyromaniac. I don't know. That could be your big scoop.
This isn't 100% French cheese. I'm burning this fucker down.
Now, are you planning on like working with him again? I mean, I don't think Robot Chicken's still in production, is it? Are they still shooting more of it, or has he got like side projects?
Robot Chicken is actually still in production. Oh, really? If you can believe it, it's still going. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's been around forever at this point.
But he's one of the people who owns the studio, so he's sort of somewhat involved in a lot of things. And actually, I think he's working on a show of his own, something stop motion. I don't know a lot about it, and I don't want to spill the beans. So let's say that yes, there will be more, and yes, we're at the same studio. So hopefully, when there's not so much COVID around, I'll see him in person.
All right.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, I definitely appreciate you coming on. It's been a blast. Yeah, this is so cool. Like we never got to speak to a stop motion animator before, so this has made our entire night.
Yeah, you got to come back on when you once you direct your first film.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
definitely.
Awesome.
I look forward to that.
I want to hear about Seth Rogen being an asshole. I want to know all the dirt about Seth Rogen.
I haven't met him personally yet, but again, I don't think he's an asshole either.
No, he's probably another sweetheart.
No.
Like, he's probably a fantastic guy.
And Sarah Silverman is a voice too, and I'm looking forward to
that's awesome.
her.
I love Sarah Silverman. All right,
she seems
Sarah.
really awesome, so I look forward to meeting her.
Cool.
All right, well, thank you for coming out tonight, and have a good night.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you again, Sarah.
Thanks.
All right, bye.
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 No, thank you. That was really good.
Then do I leave the meeting now, or we just do that because you're cutting the end of the?
Well, now this is all gonna be part of it. So
wait, do I leave, or then I say goodbye and then I do that awkward thing where you just stay here? Then
this is the part where we usually talk trash about you. Just
no.
Oh
no.
That's okay. I should have made the camera go black. I think I was gone, and then I just listen in.
Yeah. No, you're great and all. Like, we really do appreciate everything. So
yeah,
you can stay or leave. We're not telling you one way or the other.
All right, I'm gonna go. I just didn't know how that was like just for the recording, and then we were gonna walk off the record.
Yeah. There's no after party or anything, so
I mean, I can stop recording if you got some dirt.
This is when I really reveal that Seth is actually an asshole.
No, seriously.
Okay.